Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever time it is where you're listening at. I am Maren Costa, and this is
You're both.
Unapologetically Maren, the Cornbread Chronicles. I come to you this evening with a very personal and special guest. This is Paula. She is going to be giving us her testimony of resilience, overcoming domestic violence, just her recovery story. And you guys, as you've seen in some of the advertisement, she has a very personal part of my own recovery journey. She works at an inpatient treatment facility, the one that I actually went to. And she is an amazing woman with an amazing story, and I cannot wait for her to be able to share it with you guys. So, Paula, how are you doing this evening?
A little off balance.
Uh,
I'm good. I
it's all
this is
good. It's
new.
all
This
good. We
is
always
new.
say it's just like two friends talking, just like on a FaceTime, and nothing to be nervous about at all. So, I am just going to let you just jump on in and start giving your testimony and your story, and I cannot wait to hear it.
Okay. So I'm Paula. I've been in recovery April 11th of 2023. I started this journey, so I've been doing this for about 3 years. I am very codependent. Actually, I'm a lot better. I'm setting boundaries and stuff now. It's a big, huge thing for me.
Yes.
But anyway, started recovery because I went to a behavioral health hospital because I hit a real bottom, and I met somebody in there. And so my goal was to help them because it's easier to help somebody else than it is to deal with your own crap. I'm sorry
Absolutely.
about that. Uh, anyway, and so if they failed, it's not on me, right? And so
Right.
I started going to One City Recovery. My mom was a part of One City Church. And so I went to check it out for this friend of mine, and they relapsed. They came for a little while and they relapsed, but I ended up staying for me. It started me on this recovery journey. My whole life has changed. If the last 3 years, when I look back and I think about it, I am amazed at what has happened in this journey of mine. And one of the things that I've been telling clients lately is choose your hard. So we can keep going down the same path. We can keep doing the same exact things because we're comfortable, because we know what to expect. Even if we're miserable, we know what to expect. Or we can step into this other hard and take a first step, usually in fear, right? I didn't know who I was when I wasn't a victim.
Yeah.
No clue who I was outside of my life. And I stepped into the unknown. I stepped into this journey. And I want to tell you, I'm so glad that I did, because it has been broken in some places, but absolutely beautiful in others. Just in the last 3 years, I'm just amazed at all the changes that have happened in my life because I chose recovery. And so it's choose your hard, right? You choose what you know. Sorry, I'm using my hands, but you
Oh,
choose what
I
you
talk with
know.
friends.
So you choose what you know, and even though you know where it's going to lead, even though if you know what's going to happen, just because it's comfortable, or we choose this new path. And if we choose this new path, what amazing things can happen? What changes can happen in our life? So our theme over the last couple of months, because I do work at a recovery center now, is choose your hard. Which hard road are you going to take? Because both are hard.
Yeah.
Neither one of them are going to be easy, but choose your hard. And so my hard was walking into the unknown. Um, I found myself on April 11th in a behavioral hospital. I I felt so broken. I was in an abusive relationship, a little bit of physical, but mostly mental. But there was some physical. But most of it was mental, and I didn't know who I was. I isolated. I stayed in this miserable situation because for 5 years it was really good, and for 2 years it was hell. I mean, if I'm being real honest, I never
Yeah.
knew when it was going to be good and when it was going to be bad. It was, and I call this the trauma that broke me. I have kind of two stories that I do. One is the trauma that broke me, and it's what started me on my recovery journey. And then the second one is what God is doing in my story now, because the changes are insane.
Yeah.
But anyway, I found myself in this behavioral hospital, and I was there for 5 or 6 days on a hold. My family moved me out of my house and moved me back home. I was in Louisiana, moved me back home to Texas. And there were all kinds of threats, all kinds of things that happened during that time. But I went into a partial hospitalization thing. I went to class 3 days a week for 6 hours a day. And I was like, man, I must be really screwed up to have to go that much. you know? um,
Understand.
I must be really, really bad off, right? And but it started teaching me some of the things that I didn't realize about myself. It started teaching me all the things. I've had some trauma since I was 8 years old, and so it started teaching me how to walk through all of those traumas, all of those things, and see that I am not the broken person that I thought I was. It was, I wish I could put into words, but it was like little bits and pieces. And then I started going to One City Recovery. I got involved. I started a STEP program. It is for all things. It is mental health. It is substance abuse. It is all the things that break us. So it's for the abused, the abuser, the narcissist, the self-righteous, the somebody who's doing pornography, gambling, whatever it is, because I feel like everybody needs recovery. We
Yeah.
all have something that we need to recover from. It doesn't have to be bad relationships. It could be a heartbreak. It could be grief over somebody that's passed away, or losing a friend, or losing a boyfriend. It could be so many different things. And changing the way we feel is not just about drugs and alcohol.
Right.
Changing the way we feel could be shopping, right?
Yep.
There's just so many things. And until we really are wanting to be real with ourselves and really look at ourselves and really do the hard work and look in the mirror and be honest, that's the hard part, right? Is to be
Yeah.
honest, not just with everybody else, but with us.
With yourself. Yeah.
Um, that's when freedom can start coming in. That's when healing can start happening. That is when our brokenness can start being pieced back together, right?
Yep.
So
Beautifully broken.
yes, yes. And so I'm going to jump ahead a little bit, but I gave my testimony at One City Recovery recently, and I talked about how I felt too broken to be loved in a healthy way. I felt this is the kind of love I have to settle for, right?
Right.
Nobody's going to love me if they know my past. And I'll go through all of that in just a minute. But I thought that I was too broken to deserve a healthy kind of love, that I was too broken to not have to earn your love, not have to earn your respect. And that's all part of codependency, right? And I thought codependency, jumping off real quick, but I thought codependency was I couldn't be by myself. I can be
Yeah.
by myself, right? And I was like, I'm
Right.
not codependent. But what I learned is codependency is I'm not okay if you're not okay. Your feelings come first. I'm going to do for you before I do for me, and put myself in a bind financially, emotionally, all of the things trying to make you happy.
Yep.
And somewhere in that, I lost my voice. I lost being able to tell you how I feel. I lost when something is going on with me. I literally know myself well enough now that I have to ground. I have to put in music. I have to not talk, answer questions, but step aside and actually figure out what I'm feeling, because trauma changes the brain. It changes the way we think. It changes the way we respond. And what I'm learning is that my nervous system will react to something before my mind even knows what's happening.
Yeah.
It recognizes something familiar, it feels something familiar, and all of a sudden it goes back to survival mode and sometimes victim mode. if I'm being real honest.
Yeah.
And I have to figure out, and sometimes that takes me a few days, I have to figure out what is happening. So I isolate a little bit. And isolation was one of my things, but I don't isolate to stay away from everybody and to hide. I isolate to figure out what's going on so I can deal with it and I can approach it in a healthy way. So where I was 3 years ago, I had no idea about this. It was just easier to put it in a box, put it a lid on it, and act like it didn't
Yeah.
happen. But what I'm finding is that when you put that lid on it and you don't deal with it and you don't talk about it and you don't tell your truth, then all of a sudden your words start going missing. All of a sudden you're reacting. It changes the way you react to stuff. It changes the way you live. It changes everything about you until you don't even know who you are anymore.
Yeah.
I'm really
Absolutely.
going rogue right now. I'm
That's what
really going rogue
happens
with my
here.
story.
You
To be
get
honest, this
unhinged
is
and just keep
rogue.
on going.
But anyway, so I left the abusive relationship, but one of the things that I've had to learn to start dealing with is I was molested as a little girl, and when I say that, there has been forgiveness there. That person had things happen to them, hurt people,
Yeah.
and it was a family member, and there was I even then I took on codependency. I didn't want to hurt my family. I didn't want to break up my family. I didn't want to tell anybody what was happening to me. I wanted to hide. I I didn't want anybody to know. And because if my family was broke up, then that was my fault, right? That's the way that we do when we're broken. We think that
So
everything is our fault.
everything's their fault.
Yeah, yes. And so in my 20s, I was right before I turned 20, well, no, right after I turned 21. My daughter was very, very sick as a baby. She We were in and out of the hospital. She would run like 105 fever, so we were on about 3 days of no sleep. And I brought her to the doctor, and she had finally fallen asleep in her car seat. And my air conditioner had just broken my car. It was in May, and I'm in Texas, so it's hot. And I was trying to stay awake. And so I stopped at a store. And when I say this, it sounds so not like me. And makes me sound like I don't know what I'm doing. But I'm adamant about locking your car and doing all of this. But she had fallen asleep. I was really hot. I needed some energy. So I stopped at a store and I ran in to grab a soda real quick. And I left her in the car because she was sleeping. I didn't want to lug out her car seat. It was only going to take me a minute. Well, when I got in the store, there were a bunch of construction workers and stuff. And so I hurried up, got through everything, got through the lines and everything, and got back in my car, and I was trying to hurry, and I felt something in my side. So long story short, I was sexually assaulted. Not actually raped. I was cut up a little bit. But my daughter was threatened. I was threatened if she woke up, if I made noise and she woke up, that they were going to kill both of us. I can still remember it was a worker smell, like outside, sweating, hot,
Yeah.
stanky, just stinky. I can still remember that smell. And come to find out, they caught the guy. He did it to somebody else, used the same words, same threats. He was a stalker. So I don't know how long he had been around or how long he had been watching, or if just that day I was his prey. I don't know. But he was caught because he did it to somebody else. And then I got married, and I had my little girl was out of wedlock. I got married, and he loved my little girl. That's the reason I fell in love with him, is because of how much he loved my little girl. But I was still trying to prove my worth. I was still
Yeah.
trying to prove that I was worth loving. I was still trying to prove that I deserved his attention. And not that he necessarily did anything wrong for several years or anything like that. It did get a little bit verbal abusive at times. There was a lot of expectations, but those expectations was because I went above and beyond trying to prove I was worth loving. And so
Yeah.
my identity became mom and wife. That was my whole identity. So in my 30s, when I had my third child, he was 3 months old. We separated, and he was having an affair. And my whole identity was shattered, right?
Yeah.
And I had something else happen with somebody else, and I don't really just to protect people, I don't really want to talk about that. There's people that might listen that this would hurt them, and I never want to do that. And so I had something else happen. This is my 30s. In my 40s, I got back together with my ex-husband, and we moved to Bryan College Station for a fresh start. And when I did that, we were separating again after about 3 years, and my safe place was my daughter's school. And so when we would fight or have a disagreement, or I just needed a breather and get out of the house a little bit, I would go walk up at the school on the school track. So it was late. It was like 10 o'clock. This is a 1A school. It is like five
Yeah.
towns making up
Yeah.
500 kids from K4 all the way up through high school. And so my daughter was a cheerleader. I was the fundraising mom. I was the over Operation Graduation. I had all of these responsibilities. If I wasn't at work, I was at school. So the school felt safe for me. And I was taken from the school and about 2.5 miles away. And I was woke up in a field next to a cemetery. And I was raped. And the fallout of that was mentally horrible. It was
Yeah.
horrible. I was scared to go anywhere. I was scared to leave the house. I was 3 hours away from my home, where my family was and where my support system was. And it, my daughter was a senior. I dropped out of everything. I wasn't over Operation Graduation anymore. I wasn't showing up at the school. I stayed away. It I don't remember a whole lot, but I did have to walk about 2.5 miles back into town. I had to find my shoes. My keys and to my car were gone. My phone was gone. So I walked about 2.5 miles into town to get help, and in the middle of the night on a Sunday night. So let's not deal with that. Let's put it in a
Right.
box and put a lid on it, right? And
Right.
so then I spent the next several years, a couple of relationships, but one was I got into. 5 years were really good, and 2 years were hell. And we went through a lot of loss. I lost my dad. 30 hours later, we lost his grandfather. His grandfather lived with us, was in the house with us. And I thought he was just mad at the world. I thought that he was just angry because he lost his grandfather. I had lost my dad. Then I lost my stepdad 4 months later, and things just kept getting worse and worse at home. And he was angrier and angrier. Well, now I know he was using meth. He started using drugs. I didn't know that for the first year.
Yeah.
And
I
so,
was in the same
uh,
situation, and it's like, how do you not know? But you don't. They're good at
I
hiding
don't.
things. Yeah.
Well, and I've never been around it. I wasn't
Yeah. I hadn't
around
either.
drugs and
Yeah.
alcohol. I wasn't around any of that stuff. I didn't know what the signs were to look for. There were times that he would lose his temper, but never at me, right? And so he would get mad at stuff or whatever, and I'd calm him down. But all of a sudden, it was back at me. He was mad at me, and so we separated. And then he got clean after about 4 months, and asked me to come back. And I wasn't going to. I said maybe. I was back in Texas. I said maybe we need a little time. Let's work on this. I need you here. I need you here. And so I ended up moving back, and it was good for about 3 months. It was great. And then he started using again. And he would have somebody that he dated when he would use. She had 5 children. But I don't know if she let him use. I don't really know what the story was behind that, but that's who he was with when he was using, and he wanted to be with me when he wasn't using. But unfortunately, it just got really, really bad. We had to change the locks on the house. I live next to his parents, and we had to change the locks on the doors so he wouldn't have a key. He tried to throw a vacuum cleaner at my car. His mom had to call the police on him. He held me down in a bathtub one time, and he said that he held me down by my shoulders. He didn't. It was my neck. He threw a drink at me, busted up my razor. I couldn't defend myself. I was in the bathtub, and
Mm.
everything that went wrong was always my fault. And I'm not saying that I was perfect. I was far from perfect, but I didn't deserve that.
No,
And
there's
I
no
would be
excuse
told
for
how
that. Yeah.
No, and I was told I was stupid, and if I was going to, like, I went to go get him medicine one time, and I was gone for 2 hours because it was Walmart, and getting medicine at Walmart takes some time sometimes, and it
Yeah.
wasn't ready when I
Anything
got
at
there.
Walmart takes some time.
Yes, yes. And so I was accused of sleeping around. I was going to meet somebody when I was at Walmart. And that was the story. It was always I was sleeping with somebody, I was doing something, and I went back and at one point in time and read the text messages and went through all of the text messages. And I think he accused me of sleeping with like 32 people. Like, come on, dude. No,
Oh,
I don't have the energy for all that. Even if I
right.
want to, I don't have
No
the
energy,
energy.
no time. I mean, come on.
Yes, but I just kept thinking that I would see glimpses of him from the 5 years that we were together, and it kept me in hope, which sounds
Yeah.
really crazy,
No, I
but
was the same way.
it just kept me hoping that he would get clean again and that we would be back to normal and our life would go back to normal. And I loved our life when we were together. Sorry,
When
my
it was
ear was
good, it was
itching.
good. When it was
Um,
bad, it was ugly. Yeah.
Yes, and he was a commercial fisherman, and so we were on the water all the time, and I love the water. That's my happy place, and it
Mm.
was just I just kept thinking it would get better, and so I isolated because I didn't want my family to know because then if they knew, they would hate him,
Yeah.
they wouldn't like him. They would
Sound
they
just
would
like
hold a
me.
grudge against him. And
Yeah.
and so I would hide and I would go to the things I absolutely had to, but if I didn't have to go, I stayed home so nobody knew. And then when I would go out, I would wear a mask like everything was great and everything was perfect. He was just busy. He was just working. That's why he wasn't with me. All of the things and I look back on it and I think, what? How bad was I that I thought that this was okay? You know? But what it did for me is it brought me to recovery. What it did for me is, and I grew up, I want y'all to hear me. I grew up in church. I knew scripture. I've been a church secretary. I was over accreditation at a Christian school, worked with Oral Roberts University. Like, I knew God, right? But I didn't know how to let God in those pieces, those dark
Mm.
places, those pieces um, that I wanted to stay hidden. I didn't know how to let him come in and help me walk through that. And I stayed. And God, this is so important. And this was not I was not planning on talking about this, but one of the things that I learned in the step study that I work, which is Revive Recovery, it's a faith-based 12-step program. One of the things I learned is and our pastor actually talked on it this morning, but about shame and conviction and condemnation. And I teach this because this is step 5 for us, and it is the most life-changing thing that out of there's several chapters in the book, but this is one of my favorites. And it talks about that conviction is a tap on the shoulder that says, "Hey, you're doing something wrong. Hey, you need to change this behavior." And it gives us room to do that, right? Without shaming us, without doing any of that. It is just, "Hey, let's do something different. This isn't right." And condemnation says, "Why even try? Because this is who you are. Why even try?" And condemnation and shame go hand in hand. And a little bit of shame, sorry, there's my dog. A little bit of shame is okay. A little bit of shame helps us. A little bit of guilt, a little bit of shame is okay. But Pastor was talking this morning about toxic shame. And toxic shame is that we are our mistakes. Toxic shame or shame attacks our identity and says this is who we are. Our mistakes are who we are. And when I learned that I could be tapped on the shoulder and change the behavior or change my way of thinking and have room to do that, there's freedom in that for me.
Yeah.
When I become my mistakes or the things that have happened to me and attacks my identity and I stay in it, that is not healthy and that is not good for me. It's not good for me mentally. And so my drug of choice was let's take some Benadryl and go to sleep, not overtaking it. But let's take a couple of Benadryl. We don't have anywhere to go. I don't have to work. I was functioning, but then let me go to sleep so I don't have to feel.
Yeah.
So we all do things to change the way that we feel, right? And so that was a hard realization for me, is that maybe drugs and alcohol aren't a part of my story, but the change in the way that I feel and needing to do that is a major part of my story. I stayed in shame for so long and stayed feeling broken that I felt like I had to settle for some friendships, some
Yes.
relationships, all of that, that I had to settle, and I had to constantly. And do you know how exhausting it is to feel like that you have to prove you can be loved, or that you're worth being loved, and then feeling like when you make a mistake, oh, I've got to earn that back again. It is
Yes.
exhausting. And I also want you to hear this. When I started working the steps, I thought it was going to be that I was working the steps to learn how to forgive, to learn how to not let my past hold me back so I didn't carry it into my future. But what I didn't understand is that I had a major part to play. And people are like, what do you mean you had a major part to play? You had so much trauma, so much blah, blah, blah. Yes, I did, because one, I didn't get help.
Yeah.
Two, I hid and I didn't talk about it. Three, I got so codependent that I didn't even know who I was anymore, and I let other people tell me who I was. And so
Exactly.
that's and I would run ahead and try to fix everything for everybody else. And in the abusive relationship, there was never any accountability for him. I would not let him fall. And when he did fall, it was always because of something I did, because I was always constantly running ahead and trying to fix things for him, that there was no accountability there, ever. There was no accountability. And so I did have a part to play. I allowed this to continue to happen because I didn't get help and I felt too broken for anything better. There are things that I have allowed in my life, or that I have shown that I wasn't worth caring about, or that I wasn't worth loving, because I was constantly working for the approval, right? So it was okay
Yeah.
for them to treat me bad because I deserved it. That's on me. That is stuff I allowed. That is stuff that I did. And that's just a few things. That's just a few pieces of the part that belong to me. So when I'm talking about all this stuff, and I'm talking about, it's not woe is me. It is, Paula, step up. It's stand
Yeah.
up and do the things that you need to do to get better so you don't stay there. It's a struggle.
Yeah, it
It's
is.
a
That's the
struggle.
hardest part. It's like, it's so, your story, like everything you're saying just resonates so deep with me too. I literally remember taking a walk and was talking to God, and I knew I did not love this man anymore. I knew it, but I still couldn't leave. I was so codependent. I was like
Mhm.
you said, choose your heart. But in that moment, it was like, I don't want to have to start all over. Like invested five
Yes,
years in this, and this was
yes,
like the first man I was with when I was happy. So it was like, I don't want to go back to who I was before, but I had already became that person, and even worse. I didn't
right.
realize how broken I was, but to literally know and hear God say, you have to leave or you're going to die. Because
Mhm.
mine was really physical. And it was, Maren didn't listen. I mean,
Mm-mm.
and it was
We
just
don't. We don't.
literally could hear, I mean, literally could hear him telling me. And I was just like, I don't want to hear it. And now I'm
Yep.
just like, like you said, I was very spiritual, very into my faith. And it's just like, why am I just denying everything that he is telling me? He is literally trying to push me in the right direction. And I am backing and resisting every single thing that I was being told to do,
Yes.
until I was almost killed, and luckily was not, but he ended up in prison, and I ended up a very changed and blessed person after that, but and found God again, and found my strength and my voice, but still have codependency issues sometimes, even though I'm in a great marriage, a wonderful marriage, love my husband, he's amazing. I am still a codependent person, and it's something that's
Yep.
really hard for me to let go of. Like, I just feel like I'm I need to have him and I need him to be happy and I need everything, to be perfect. And I don't know who I am without him, especially not
Right.
working anymore. And it was like, who am I now? I was always the HR director, the person that was helping everyone and giving, now I'm like,
Yes.
okay, I am just a wife. What now? And I'm a wife and a podcaster. What else am I? It's just really, yeah, finding yourself is not the easiest thing to do.
No, but you can't find yourself unless you're honest with yourself too, right?
Yeah.
That's the hard
Yes.
part, is taking a really hard look at us and dealing with our stuff, and I will say this, I'm much better, except for today. I was told that I never say no, which is I don't very often, but
Um,
I'm learning that I can set boundaries with people that I'm not close to. But as soon
yes.
as I start setting boundaries with people that I'm close to and they don't like it, and there's some guilt and shame that goes in that, right? I'm not a good friend. I'm not a good this. I'm not a good that. I'm not,
For people
and I'm
pleasers.
like, yes, but I will say this, I've had to step up and say, you know what? I'm sorry that you feel that way about me. Um, but if I don't take care of me, I'm not going to be
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah.
And I have to take care of me. And that is super hard. It's super hard to say. It's super hard to lose relationships that you thought were going to be a part of your life forever, that
Yeah.
you thought, even recovery, your recovery people can change, and I
Hmm.
don't know if you remember this, Maren. I would say find your people all the time.
Hmm.
Find your
Yes.
people, and how tight the recovery community is. And all of that is true, but your people can change even in recovery.
Yeah.
And I'm learning that people are in your life sometimes for a season. They're not meant to be in your life forever. And they can be such an important part of that season. But you can also know that you can't go into their season or they can't come into yours, whatever the case may be. It doesn't matter. And that's okay. And you can love them and you can cheer from them from afar. But it doesn't mean that you have to be a part of their everyday.
Yeah.
It
A
doesn't
reason, a
mean that.
season, or a lifetime.
Yes, yes,
Mm.
and
We
and
don't
it's
get to choose
okay,
who's
and you
which.
can, yes, and you can love the season. You can love
Hmm.
the season that they were in, right? You can be I there are some people that were in my last season that I wouldn't have made it through that season without them.
Right.
But either I can't go into their season or they can't come into mine to this new season, right? But it
Right.
doesn't mean that I'm not cheering for them on the side. It doesn't mean that I don't love them. It just means that the season is over and it's okay. And that was I'm so codependent. I'm better. I'm so much better than I used to be. But I'm so codependent that if you don't like me and I don't like you, I'm still going to try to do whatever I can for you to like me.
Mm.
I don't like
I'm
you.
telling you,
I
I
don't want to be
learned that when I was
okay.
13. When I was 13, that's when I started having some mental health issues. I ended up in an inpatient facility for a little while from suicide attempts. And I was around, I mean, I don't want to use the word crazy, but I was around a lot of schizophrenics and a lot of people. I was 13 and I had never been around severe mental illness.
Mhm.
And there was this one girl and she was just totally off her rocker, but she wanted my bracelet, which is something that was very special to me. I could not even tell this girl no. I
Uh,
could not. It hurt my heart. I did not want to give this girl my bracelet. I was not friends with this girl. I didn't know this girl, but I still could not tell her no. And I gave it to her. And not because I was doing this wonderful thing to be this good person. And no, I couldn't say no.
yeah.
And I was like, wow,
I'm
why can't I not say no? This isn't even my
yes.
friend. Like, I don't know. And I've
Yep.
realized that ever since that it's so hard for me to say no, no matter who you are. If I like you or
Yes.
not, you ask for something and I give it. Or you don't even have to
Yes.
ask. If I think you need it, I'm probably going to give it to you, even if it means I'm going to be negative in my checking account. That happened not too long
Yes.
ago. I mean,
Yes.
there's
All of
one thing
that.
helping somebody because you can or you have the means, and then there's just feeling like you have to.
Right. Right. Sorry, I'm playing ball with my dog while we're
Oh,
talking.
you're good.
She keeps bringing it
You're
to me, so
good.
it's like I don't know what to do here. Um, well, so I want to say the scripture that you posted. I know I sent you some stuff on me, my testimonies, because I wanted you to read both of them and see what would fit. But being the close to the brokenhearted, that is my scripture.
That's
There's a
mine
song
too.
called "The Truth" by Megan Woods, and that is my freedom song. If you haven't listened to it, listen to it because it's amazing. But I want to talk about for just a second what all of this has done for me. So I'm in my fourth step study, right? I am still continually working on myself, and when I feel something, when something is going on inside of me, and it feels wrong, and I don't know, I don't have the words, I get into some work. I have codependency books, I have trauma books, I have my step study. I actually have, when I was going through the hospital program, I actually still have all my work from that. So I can go back and I can look and say, okay, does this fit my situation when I'm trying to figure me out and I'm trying to figure out what is happening in my body right now, right? And so I am a continual work, and I do believe 100% that recovery is a lifetime. We will
Yes.
always have something to work on. We'll always have a hurt, a grief, a habit, or something. We always self-righteousness. Like we can think that we are above whatever
Right.
our issues are, and we've arrived, and I never believe that happens in recovery. I believe that there is always something that we need to continually work on, and I also believe in working the 12 steps, and some people will disagree with me, and I get that. But if I wouldn't have started dealing with the last trauma, the first group that I went through, the first process group that I went through, and that's what we call ours. When we go through the step study, it's a process group. We do it with a group of women, and men do it with a group of men. And if I would have tried to take on all my traumas at one time, all of my feelings, I would have quit. I would
Yeah.
not have continued to go. There is no way that I would have survived it. And so I tell people all the time, pick one trauma, one person, one event, one habit, one, I'm not saying don't look at all your character defects, but if there's one that is continual, that is jeopardizing everything in you, take on that character defect. Try not to take on so much that it's overwhelming you, and you can't continue.
Right.
Because recovery is a lifestyle. Recovery is a lifetime. And I will deal with all of my stuff eventually, right?
Right.
I was taking on the trauma that broke me. And then the next one, I was doing what happened to me when I was a little girl. And then I was going to move on to the thing. But in the meantime, rejection happened. And so I needed to deal with that rejection. So it didn't take root. And so my third step study, I dealt with rejection, and then I had something new happen, and so a new situation, and so I'm dealing with that situation. So I will be in recovery for a lifetime, and I will
Yeah.
be working on my stuff. But I will tell you that as I go through each step program, when I think about some of the other traumas, or I'm thinking, oh, I haven't dealt with that yet, I kind of am. In dealing with the rejection, it brings me back to some traumas, right? And
Yes.
so I will deal with them, take them on one at a time, like I'm talking about. But the other side of it is it's not so overwhelming because they're in the rejection process group. I'm dealing with some of the traumas that have happened to me, right? And so I'm dealing with little pieces of them. But what recovery has brought me is an amazing support system. And even though some of those support people have changed recently, I still have an amazing support system because I'm a leader at One City Recovery. And I have an amazing team that I work with that has changed a little bit, but it's okay. They sit with me in my valley, or they're on the mountain with me, right?
Right.
And I've got this. I'm not sitting by myself anymore because I said in my the introduction that I did for you that I used to honestly believe, who would believe that all of this stuff could happen to one person? Who would believe that? And I'm really realizing that the more I open up and I tell my story, that maybe somebody hasn't been through all the things that I've been through, but they've been through something I've been through and they don't feel alone anymore. Or
Right.
I realize that somebody's been through something I've been through and all of a sudden I'm not alone anymore. And I've got somebody that that knows how I feel or understands a little bit of it or can understand the codependency part of it or the rejection part of it or whatever I'm going through at that moment. It's given me this really incredible community. The other thing that it has done for me is I used to be in sales. Well, I'm kind of back into sales right now, but I used to be in sales. I worked for Pepsi and Coke. I got hurt, and so I was an office administrator at a tax office, and I got hurt again. I had to have a bunch of surgeries on my leg, and so I needed to work from home. So I worked for Dish Network. Oh my gosh, on that.
You're
That
like,
that was a
never
job. The great part about it was I worked from home. The bad part
right.
about it is I worked at home and got yelled at all day long because I worked in
Exactly.
retention. Um,
Exactly.
but um, but what recovery did is it opened up a place for me at a recovery center. And so while I cannot, let me think of how to word this. It's substance abuse. And while I have not dealt with substance abuse, and I can understand it in my head a little bit. I can relate to it because I had horrible coping skills too. While I understand that it's a disease, I don't know what that feels like from the inside out. But what I can do is talk to you about your trauma, and I know what that feels like from the inside out. And if we can deal with your trauma, then the need to numb isn't as strong anymore.
Exactly.
Um,
You
but
definitely changed the way that I looked at recovery personally for exact reasons that you just said. That had always just looked at being in recovery meant you were either on, some type of substance abuse, drugs, alcohol, whatever. And then when I met you, and knowing right away, you were telling your story, I knew that you hadn't experienced that. I was like, what? How was she in recovery then? Like I'm just thinking black and white, but
yeah,
I did. And I got so much out of you, like in your story and the way that you talked to us and treated us. And you didn't babysit us. You made sure that we had the skills that we needed and were just so kind. And you made me really say, like you said, everybody needs recovery from
yeah,
something. And it's
right,
something that anyone can work on themselves like that. And you really did make me change how I saw recovery.
right.
That like
Well,
it's for everyone.
yes. Well, and I get that a lot. And hear my heart in this. Um, I struggle with my place in recovery sometimes. Even working at the treatment center, I struggle with what is my place because I can't talk to you. I can talk to your addiction, but I can't
Yeah.
feel it like you can feel
Yeah.
it, right? And so I really struggled for a really long time. And when I gave my testimony for the very first time a little over a year ago, when I got in front of a group of people and I gave my really raw version of it, like I don't want to say a lot of details, but kind of more details than I am tonight.
Right.
Um, when I was really honest about it for the first time out loud in front of a group of people, the response, because there's a reason why you want to use, right? What is your reason? Because we got to deal with that reason that you want to use. We got to deal with that reason that you want to change the way you feel. We got to deal with why you want to numb, right? And I had somebody argue with me about this a while back ago, and they came back and they said, you're right. You're right. Now that I'm looking at it, the more I've sat in on the class, but I'm like, there's a reason 9 times out of 10, there's a trauma or there's something that's happened in your life that makes you want to numb. It's not usually just because it's not usually genetics. That can be a part of it, but
Right.
it's not usually genetics. It's not usually is fun because it quits being fun after a while.
Oh yeah.
Usually there is a reason that you want to numb and change the way you feel. Um, and so I had a guy that his second time back in treatment, said, okay, maybe there's something to what you're saying, And then when I went through something recently, a few months ago, there is a significant thing that I've learned. So, because I don't understand all the things on addiction and stuff, and I have people in my life that are in addiction, and I want to chase after them. I want it for them. I want it more than they want it. I'll fight for them. I'll fight with them, right? I'll do all of the things. And what I learned is if I go chasing after you and try to explain to you why you need recovery and you don't want it, I push you further in your addiction, right? And so what I'm learning in trauma is, because I feel this one on the inside out, that if you push me to do something that I'm not ready for, or I don't have words for anymore, or that I can't explain, and you push me, you're pushing me back into my traumas. So in my abusive relationship, he would come at me and he would be in my face and literally spit flying everywhere. And I would be backed in a corner and he'd be like, speak, talk to me. And I would just spew out stuff because I didn't know how to explain where I was in my head. I didn't know how to tell you what was happening. I didn't know how to tell you the way I felt because I didn't know. So when somebody does that to me now, it puts me right back in my trauma. And I'll be real honest, in December, I thought, what am I even in recovery for? Because I'm right back where I started, right? But I didn't stay there. I got into some work, and in a few days, I had it figured out. I had it figured out why I was shutting down in this situation, why I couldn't talk, why I was so angry when I did, and why I just spewed stuff out. And it wasn't even necessarily all the things that I was feeling. It was just, you wanted a reaction, so here it is, kind of thing. And so all of a sudden, you push me into something I'm not ready for, something that I can't explain, that I'm back in my trauma. And I'm triggered. And the trigger is a Paula problem. It's not a you problem, but you got to let me work through the trigger, right? Because if you keep pushing me, then it is a you problem. If you keep needing an answer for me before I'm ready to give it, and I'm not running from it, I'm not trying to isolate and stay there. I'm trying to figure out what's happening with me. All of a sudden, it gave me my place in recovery. All of a sudden, it made sense while I'm doing what I'm doing. All of a sudden, because you can have substance abuse and not have deep-seated trauma, you can still have trauma, you can still have a reason to numb, but if you don't understand my type of trauma, complex trauma is what we call it, if you don't understand that, you can push me right back to where I started. And all of a sudden, I had clarity for the substance abuse portion of it, right? And all of a sudden, I had a place in recovery. So God is showing me different things, showing me that, right? Because I was questioning my place in recovery so much, and he showed me. But the other thing that's happened is, not only am I working at a treatment center, I'm teaching a faith-based class, which I've totally changed up since you've been there. I've found my voice. Let me put it that way. I feel like with y'all, even though you probably didn't feel like I held back, you should see me now. because because I've learned, and all of a sudden I have this passion ignited in me, and so I've found my voice because I found my place in recovery. So now, you know how we used to go around and read the book and read the chapter, and then we would just process the questions. Now I teach a class on that story. So we read the chapter and I teach a class on it, and I explain it more. I explain it better. And then I have a worksheet because I love worksheets, and evidently I'm meant to be a teacher.
I still have
So
all of
I
my
have a
stuff
worksheet.
completed.
Yes.
All of the
And
printouts and all the stuff that y'all gave us. I
yes.
still have all of it.
Well, I have more now. so so when I'm teaching a class, I just do a follow along worksheet. I still don't pick up anybody's work or do any of that. I still have I have a follow along worksheet where you can make notes or put how you're feeling in that moment or whatever when I'm actually teaching, and then we process the questions. So we break it down a little bit further, now. And it's been amazing. But I'm actually where I used to hide behind little cards when I was at One City Recovery and made to talk. I would hide behind these little cards, and I didn't really want to let you see my face or go
Yeah.
outside of that card or do that. I'm actually teaching lessons. But the biggest thing is I want to say that I'm 55 years old. I'll be 56 in August. I've gone back to school, and I've gone back to school to be a trauma counselor. I'm at the end of my sophomore year. I've got a long way to go, but I'll look at it. I'll graduate with my bachelor's when I'm 59, but I'm going to be 59 anyway. That's what my sister told me when I was talking about it. I was
Yeah.
like, what am I doing going to school in my 50s? And she's like, you're going to be 59 anyway. And I'm like, you know what? Shut up.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
I'm actually trying to go in September for a faith-based counseling class to get certified as a faith-based counselor. Um,
Mm.
I don't know that I would be able to use that much like in the let's just be honest. I have clients come to me all the time because I open up stuff for them when we're going through the thing. And so I do a lot of one-on-ones, but it gives me that credentialing, I guess, to be able to go
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah.
I'm looking at maybe being a peer support person because it is going to take me it'll take me a few more years to get where I want to be as far as trauma counseling, but I can do things now, right?
Yeah.
And I want to be able to speak to you and help you now. So I'm doing some extra classes to get all of those certifications. Um, I'm on this podcast. I've been
Yes.
asked to give my testimony at a couple of other places, a women's group on a Friday, and a Celebrate Recovery, which is not the program that I work, but similar, at Turning Point in Vider. We don't have a date yet, but I'm finding my voice and learning to use my gifts that God gave me, right?
Yeah.
And the one thing, and Maren, I told y'all this over and over again when you were in our group. Uh, I want to be able to show people that I was so broken that I didn't know up or down. I never thought that I would have joy and hope again. I never thought that joy and hope would be a part of my story. And I have a big personality, so for that to me not to have joy and hope, that's a sad thing. Well, for
Yeah.
anybody not to have it, it's sad, right?
Right.
But I have this really big personality, and I want you to see that even if you feel too broken, even if you feel like that you cannot pull yourself back up, even if you feel like this is it, this is my life sentence, because I felt like that for a long time, this is the way my life is going to look forever. And finding out that I can have joy and hope again, I want to show you that you can have joy and hope again too. That is really, and that you don't have to be alone. And when I gave my testimony recently, I said this, and I mean this. For a long time, I thought, who would believe my story? Who would believe all of these things, especially most of them sexual? Who would believe that all of these things could happen to one person? And I believe in a spiritual world, and I can speak to that, but I'm not going to tonight. But if I can have joy and hope again, so can you.
Yeah.
Um, I don't want you to think that your story and where you are right now has to be where you are forever, because it's not. This is a season. I talked about seasons earlier. This is a season. It's not a life sentence. And so if you want that joy and that hope again, it takes work. It takes a lot of
Yes.
work. And I believe in doing the work, and I'm continually doing some kind of work on myself. I don't just go to school. I don't just do process group. When I'm feeling something, I have to get into some work, or I have to talk to my trauma counselor to give me some work. I have to do all of the things, and keeping silent is going to keep you stuck. Not telling your
Yes.
truth is going to keep you stuck. So the minute I started telling my story in my process group, the minute I started admitting all the things that I was feeling, I learned that there's freedom in that. And I cried probably the whole time in my first process group. Not that like, oh, a few tears, that gut wrenching, can't breathe, sobbing, can't talk, crying is what I did for about 5.5 months. But the freedom I received from doing all of that is made me what I'm able to do today. You know,
Absolutely.
and I want to tell you this too. I have a counselor that we have at the center now that says, I don't like the word broken. I don't like that you use that word. And I said, but hear me, hear my heart when I talk about this. God has brought me through so much. And if you think about stained glass is a bunch of broken pieces of glass, but in the hands of an artist, look how
It's beautiful.
beautiful he can put that back together, right?
Uh,
And you
yes.
shine differently. You
Oh,
shine
beautiful.
differently. So I am I'm a piece of stained glass, right?
Yeah.
In the hands of an artist, which is God for me.
Yeah.
Um, and he's the artist, and he put my broken pieces back together where I shine differently, I speak differently, and now I can let him into the places that I feel like I couldn't let him into for a really long time, so that I can heal and I can sit with others and help them heal.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can hear like the exuberation, like just the confidence that you have now. Not that you weren't confident before, because you always spoke to me, but you can still tell you were a little timid, you were a little shy, you didn't always open up completely.
Mhm.
And now it's like you've just blossomed into this beautiful flower. Like it's awesome to see to hear your story now, because I've heard it before, and you
Yes,
are just you speak so differently. It's
yes,
just I feel it differently and I see it on your face differently. Like
yes.
I'm so happy for you. And I feel the same way. I literally, you took the words right out of my mouth. I literally just said on the last podcast that I did, we were talking about when we feel the most free. And I
Mhm.
said, I feel the most free when I'm doing my podcast and offering a safe space for people to share their stories, and knowing that somebody is, hopefully even if it's just one person, hears the
Yes,
story and resonates like you said, and knows they're not alone, that someone else is going through this and that they can do this too. It's just freeing. And I
yes.
never thought I would be the person that was just spilling my story out to everybody all the time every day, but I
Yes,
am now. And it's just, I found my voice and I found my purpose and I know what I'm meant to do, and it is freeing. It is
yes,
definitely freeing, and it's like, I should have listened to God a long time ago. I've
yes,
been talking
yes,
about
that
this
part.
particular yes, and now I am, and it's just it's a beautiful feeling. And like you
Yes,
said, I have a lot to still to work on. I have a lot still to
mhm,
process, a lot to unpackage, but we do it a little at a time, like you said. And just chew. You can't eat an elephant in one bite. You
yes,
have to eat it piece
exactly.
by piece. So that's
Yes,
that's how we
yes,
have to work out our trauma and recovery, is little at a time, piece by piece, and like whichever needs to be worked on the most, we're gonna know.
right,
Like you said, you knew what you were working on, but then other stuff happened, and then you needed to
right.
settle that out first. You'll know what it is that
Yeah,
you need to work on right now, and other stuff can wait. And like you said, you
yeah,
have the lifetime to get to it. Just don't
yes,
sit in it and live in it. Just continuously work on yourself, continuously stay in recovery, and whatever that looks like for you, because everybody's recovery is different. Everybody's traumas are
yep,
different. Everybody's
yes,
addictions are different. Mental health isn't, everything is linear. Like it's just,
yes,
and it's so specific to each one of us.
right,
So
right.
I'm so happy that we both are finding our voice. And even
Yes,
if we are
yes,
broken, we're beautifully broken. And I'm going to
yeah,
have to use that stained glass thing sometime. I liked that.
yeah.
I'll
Well,
make
I
sure to
love,
say I quoted it from you.
you know, I was really praying when I did my last testimony, because when I was writing it out, because I really wanted to grasp that. And I've always said, when broken people shine differently. I've always said that. But I literally woke up and wrote it down. In the hands of an artist, what broken pieces can be. In the hands of an artist, right? And that's
Mhm.
what God is to me.
Yeah.
He's taking my story and using it. And I was asked if I would have gone through everything that I've been through to be where I am now. And if you would have asked me that a year ago, maybe even 10 months ago, if you would have asked me, I would have said, "Are you crazy?" You
Right.
know, um, have you lost your mind? Who would have gone through all the things that I went through? But now I would say yes. I
I
really
say yes.
would. I would say yes because I can sit with people and I can give them, I can't, God can, through me, can give
Right.
them hope.
Yeah.
They can see that you can be at your bottom and you can pick yourself back up. You can, it gives them hope that somebody else has done it, right? And I've gone through, I'm very open with my story with the clients. I'm very open because how can I expect you to trust me if I don't trust you?
Yeah.
And somebody's like, you're going to tell the wrong person that and they're going to use it against you or whatever. But you know what? I serve a God
Mhm.
that can use my story and he can protect me, right?
Right.
I
Right.
can He can protect me from all things. And the people that aren't supposed to hear it, I pray that they forget about it or they're
Yeah.
not paying attention or they're whatever. But the people that need to hear it, I'm not going to hold back because I'm afraid. You
Yeah.
know, I held
Right.
back for too long and I'm not going to do that anymore. So
Yeah.
I really do believe that I am doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. And if, sometimes I have that little inner voice that says, don't tell that part, and
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
But
I
if
know
I
what you
don't
mean.
hear that little voice, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tell you all of it. I'm going to tell you as much as
Yeah.
you want to know anyway.
Yeah. I'm the same
So,
way. And sometimes, even when I do hear that voice, I still have to question it. Why do I
yeah,
not want to say that? Is it because I
right.
don't need to, or is it because I think I'm protecting someone? Like at first, I wouldn't tell things like, I didn't want my family to like get embarrassed about things or whatever.
Hmm.
And so at first I held back on so much. And then finally I was like, but I'm not sharing my story. I'm not being
Yeah,
completely open and honest. And there's pieces that you're never going to grasp because I'm not mentioning them. I finally just had
right.
to say, this is your story,
Yep.
and
Yep.
sometimes people are a part of it and pieces
Right.
that they don't want to be a part of, but
Right.
it's
Right.
my story and it's my story to tell how I need to. And so my parents are proud of me. I haven't embarrassed them yet, I guess. I mean,
Yeah.
they're always telling me how proud they are. And when my mom
Yeah.
actually started listening, because she didn't listen at first, and she was
Yeah.
like, I didn't realize, like how important this was and how big of a difference you were making. And like,
Right.
I mean, I was posting
And that's
today
why we
about
do it, right?
yeah. And it's like,
I mean,
and I'm proud of myself, and they're
yes.
proud of me, and whether they were or not, I mean, all I can do is be me. And
Right.
my whole
Right.
thing is I want to break the stigma. I want people to be able to talk
Right.
about their stories to help heal each other, because like you said, hurt people, but healed people help heal people. So,
Yes.
and we'll
Yes.
never be completely
Yes.
healed. We're always a work in progress, and we our voice matters, and we
Right.
need to speak our truth, and we need to share our story, because you never know who's listening that needed to hear it, who now can take that step and have their own path to recovery. They now feel stronger. They now feel not as alone. And
Right.
that's all that I want. I just want to break the
Right.
stigma, and I want us all to be able to
Me too.
feel comfortable talking about it and not feel
Yes.
embarrassed or ashamed or guilty, or you know
Right.
we we all have a voice, and some of us just speak louder and too much. That's me.
Yes. Well, and I'll say this. I didn't mention this part of my story either. One and I feel led to right now, and I don't know why.
Mhm.
But I didn't mention that I'm also a suicide survivor. And I did not remember that until my second process group. And I do believe that sometimes God holds things from our memory until we're ready.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if I would have known that or realized that sooner. I don't know if I would have been able to handle it. And I had totally blocked that out of my head. And after all the deaths in the family, and when my ex started being crazy, I don't want to use that word, but
Mhm.
started being verbally abusive, very verbally abusive and angry all the time. And we were splitting up, and I found out about the other woman and all of the things. And at this point, I did not know about the drugs. Um, I can remember going into our storage building, which, keep in mind, had to walk down some stairs out the house, over to our storage building, unlock it, lift it up, and I was putting antifreeze in my protein shakes. Um, and I did it for weeks. Now, I have found out since then because somebody, when I shared that, somebody said, "Did you know that they took that, whatever it is that kills people or kills animals, because it
Mm.
killed so many animals, they took whatever that was out of it. So it's not a part of the formula anymore." So that explains why I did it for weeks and nothing ever really happened to me, right? But it still can't be good for me. But
Right.
the plan was that I would kill myself. I did not remember that until, but I can remember feeling so alone and not being able to really grieve anything because I was too worried about him, that I felt like I don't want to do this anymore. And the when I went to the behavioral hospital, what happened was is I never knew when he would come home and what that would look like, if it would be yelled and screamed at, drug up out of bed. I never knew what that looked like. And so I wasn't sleeping very well. And so I decided one night, he was gone. I knew that he wasn't going to be home. I was sleeping, but your mind never stops. And,
Right.
and, and you learn how to live in survival mode. And so I was in survival mode and I couldn't sleep. And I thought, I'm sleeping tonight. And so I took some medicine and then I woke up in the middle of the night and I thought, no. And so I took a bunch more. I can't tell you how much I took. I, I think I remembered at the first of all of the start of all of this, I think I remembered some of what I took, but I at that point I was like, well, if this isn't going to work, and it was just over the counter stuff. I took some anxiety medicine. I think I took a Xanax. I don't really know, to be honest with
Mhm.
you. And so I did go to sleep and I barely woke up the next morning to call in sick to work. And my boss was gone that day. And so the next day on my break, I said, "Hey, I need to talk to you," because I was still real fuzzy, real groggy. And I said, "I think I almost killed myself." I wasn't actually trying to kill myself. I really legitimately wanted sleep. But then, if I'm really honest, I didn't really care if I woke up,
Right.
because then the nightmare would be over, right?
Mm.
And
Right.
so I wasn't taking it to be like, I don't want to wake up, but I also didn't
But you
care if
didn't
I
care
did,
about
if I'm being really
constant.
honest. And
Yeah.
so I didn't mean to leave that part out when we were talking about it, but uh, that little tap on the shoulder that you feel like you need to say something. And I did not tell my family about it for a long time. And so when I got up to give my testimony, I really prayed about it and I felt like I needed to speak it. And so I went to my family members, I went to my children, I went to my mom, I went to my sisters, because what the time that they knew about that I went to the behavioral hospital, I was like, and I said, I wasn't trying to kill myself, but I didn't care if I woke up. This time I said I didn't want to wake up. I had to be real and I had to be honest, and I knew that that part of my story couldn't be left out. And so that little tap on my shoulder is saying, "Hey, tonight it doesn't need to be left out either." So thanks for letting me share that part and kind of backtracking a little
Absolutely.
bit. But I, I don't know if somebody that's going to listen to this needs to hear that or what, but even the people that you think have it all together, because I wore a mask for a very long time. I didn't want people to see what was happening with me. And so I
Right.
would smile at the right time. I would laugh. I still showed my big personality, but I was dying inside. And now I speak my truth. And when something's going on, I have to speak that out because I don't want to get to that place mentally where I don't want to be here anymore.
Right. And we always say, if anyone is feeling that way, always, always ask for help. There's
Yeah.
always, even when you feel like there's no one there, and if you feel like you can't go to friends and you can't go to family and you're not comfortable going to a stranger, call 988.
Yeah.
It's 24/7,
Yes.
365, no questions asked, and you can text even.
Yeah.
I mean, if you need to reach out to someone, call
Yes.
988.
Yes.
And always, we always say when we're wrapping up, check on your strong friends. The people that you think are the
Yes.
strongest ones are always the
Yes.
ones battling silently. that we wear
Yes.
the masks really, really well.
Yes.
So well that we don't even realize that we're wearing a mask at times. But check on your friends, especially your strong friends,
Yes.
because you never know when just that, hey, how are you doing? I'm here for you. You do need to talk. You never know when they really, really do need you. And
Yes.
that you saying that has now opened the door, and all they need you to do is you to listen. You don't
Yes.
have to give advice. You don't have, a lot of times they don't want it. They don't need it
Yep.
from you. We're not
They're not going to
licensed,
hear it.
but yeah, they're not going to hear it. But just listen, just listen to what they have to say and be there for them. A hug, a hand on the shoulder, just something to show I'm here, and I'm here
Right.
when you need me, because it's very important, to have somebody, who some type of support system, some type of inner circle, somebody you can talk to, because
Yes.
you don't want to keep it in, you don't want to hold it in forever, because all you're going to do is continue to hurt and break yourself even more.
Yes. Well, and I want to say this too, and it was a temporary situation, and I wanted a permanent solution, right?
Yes, I
It
say
was,
that
it's a
too.
season. It's a season. I'm big on that right now because I feel
Yeah.
like I'm entering into a new season,
Yeah.
and that is the part. And the other thing that God's doing really quick, so we, because I know that our time is up, but is I've got promoted at work. I'm in the marketing part of it. I still get to teach my classes and stuff, but I'm out in the community talking about substance abuse and talking about trauma and working to get our clients even more help through outside sources, because at Revive Recovery, we do from detox all the way through sober living. And so,
Mhm.
sober living people trying to get back on their feet, trying to do all of that, I'm working on getting resources for them. And it is another thing that I found that I'm passionate about. So that marketing I did for Pepsi and Coke and all of that
That
stuff,
pays
right?
off now in such
Yes,
a
yes.
deeper,
And
meaningful
so
way.
yes, yes. And so I'm helping not only with classes and stuff, but I'm helping people get back on their feet and
Mm.
giving them resources to help do that. And it has been, and I'm exhausted right now because I'm still doing two jobs. But God is, if He wasn't in my story,
Yeah,
I don't know that I would do this. I tell people all the time that there's a difference between sobriety and recovery, and sobriety is just staying without substances. But
yeah,
recovery is giving you the skills to not have to go back to the substance, right? And if you do the
absolutely.
recovery part, the sobriety part becomes a whole lot easier. And I want to give people, I want to help people get the resources to help them continue. But I could not do any of this if it wasn't for God being in my story.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Amen. And you're going to do wonderful things. You already are, and you already
I'm
have done
excited.
wonderful things. So this is an awesome promotion for you, and you're going to do so many things that's helped so many people. I already know, and you're got such a foothold in the recovery, community, that
Yes,
you are the person to get out there, and people are going to want to help you help others. So I love that.
yes,
That's awesome. And you guys, if you ever, some of you that are listening, if you are struggling with addiction, whether it's drugs, alcohol, whatever the case may be, never feel ashamed to not to, I mean, to ask for help. I never thought I would ever have to admit myself into a
yes,
treatment facility ever, but I did. And I had
yes,
to, and it was life changing, and I would do it all over again. And I would
yes,
do it at Revive all over again. I think that I was where I was supposed to be with the people I was supposed to be. I'm still friends with several of the people that I was there with.
yes,
And, it's like we'll always have this like something with each other that no one else can take away. No one else will
yes,
completely understand. We walked the road together, and
yes,
especially Leslie, like that's who I'm still the closest with. But
yes,
I know when I got out and she went on to sober living, we hugged each other in the parking lot, and I was like, "You will be in my life forever, and I know you will." And she
yeah,
is, and
I'm so
I
glad to
came
hear
out so
that. I
much
love
stronger.
Leslie.
Yes, she's so awesome. I love her to death, and she's doing good. She's
Good.
doing
I'm
good
glad to hear
too.
that.
Yes, she's doing good. She's living in Austin now. She went back to her
Yes.
hometown, and she is doing really good. And she's
Good.
got a
I'm so
great
glad to
new
hear it.
job, and yeah, so she's doing really good. But we are going to wrap it up, and I'm so glad we
Okay.
finally got to do this. I'm so
I
sorry
know,
about
me too.
yesterday. We were meant to do it
It's
today, so you
okay.
had longer to sit and think, and now you know you were led to tell even more of your story. So,
Yes.
stuff
And
happens.
I didn't even use my notes. I didn't use my notes at all.
I told you that's exactly what happened with Paige. She's like, I made all these notes and I never looked at them. It's like you didn't need
Yeah.
them. They were just your
Yeah.
backup in case, but you're stronger than you think. Me
Yes.
too.
Yes.
They're like, do you prepare? Like, no, I just come on literally and say, I breathe and say a prayer. And it's
Yeah.
like, we're led to say whatever we're led to say, and
Yeah.
I just feed off of the energy of the guest
Yes.
and give you all the space. I'm just offering the platform for you to share your story. And
Right. Right.
I love it. And I wouldn't want to be doing anything else right now. I'm so glad I had the opportunity. And for those that don't know, we also now have a second podcast. I have three former guests of mine that I just absolutely fell in love with, and we're all so different, but we blend so well together. We said three people in recovery got together, and instead of going to brunch, we decided to form a podcast, and it's called the Truth Table.
That's
Unapologetic
cool.
AF. We said
Gotcha.
anybody can have a seat at our table, and we are
Yeah.
a little unhinged and a little feral sometimes, but we are a family, and it has blown up. And I mean, it has blown up, and I'm so excited for it. So now I have my baby, and I have another baby,
Yeah.
two little
Yeah.
podcast babies, and I
That's
am
amazing.
loving it.
I have a friend that I want us to do something together, write a book or do, I don't know, but
Yeah,
talk about they're from addiction and I'm from trauma
yeah,
and talk, like be really real about all of that. I don't know
yeah.
what that looks like yet. We just started talking about it. I don't know if it looks like a book. I don't know. I don't know. Or just
Start
short
your
stories about our
podcast.
lives or yeah, yeah. I mean, I really don't know, but I'm really excited praying about
Yeah.
it, but really excited where that might lead us. But I love the addiction and the trauma that
Yeah.
work in the same program. You know what I'm saying? But two
Yes.
different issues.
Exactly. Absolutely. You go with it. Wherever it is leading you to go, you go.
Yep,
So,
that's
and
exactly right.
before
Well, I
I
don't hold back no
go,
more.
right, right. And I have a friend, she was a former guest, and she just wrote a book called Shadows to Serenity, the story of
Uh-huh.
grit, grace, and redemption. And I told her I would make sure to show it on the
Okay.
podcast today. But her name is Christy Waddell, and she was a former guest of mine. And you can get it on Amazon. You can get it anywhere you can buy books, and just give it a read. It's a really good story. It's a her
Okay.
personal
Send me
memoir.
send
Yeah,
me the
I'll send it to
information if
you.
you don't mind. Yeah,
I
thank you.
absolutely
And
will.
I'll look
And
at it. Because anything that
she's
has to
from
do
Texas
with
too.
all of
She's a
this.
local Texas girl.
Yeah, yeah. Well, anything that has to do with anything that's going to help me, not only help
Yeah.
me, but help me help others. I like
Yes.
to read. So,
Yes, I will send it to you. It's a great book, and I was so proud of her. So also I'll plug you in there,
okay,
girl. So we
that's great.
are gonna wrap it up, and
Okay,
you're also welcome at the truth table anytime too. If you're led
okay,
to tell your story again, you just let us know.
okay.
And you guys, until the next one, like we said, check on your strong friends. Always ask for help. Always, always believe in yourself. Because if you don't believe in
Yeah,
yourself and love yourself, how can you ever believe in love in anybody else? You are the most
truth.
important piece of the puzzle.
Yes.
So love yourself, trust in God, and you guys, until the next time.